So, like we were discussing, that Yeats's biggest fear is that his daughter should not grow up to become a very intellectual woman, because he believes that hatred, which is fed by intellectualism or your political ideology, could is the worst kind of hatred, right? And he feels that and he drives home this point by giving us the example of Modgon, like we saw in the previous lecture also. He says that she's born out of the horn of plenty, as in, which means that he's using the horn of plenty symbolism to say that Modgon has everything. She had beauty, she had wealth, she had riches, she had intelligence, but she just threw away all that came along in the form of the horn of plenty, and instead she became an embittered woman. Now I find this very problematic, because it probably it stems from Yeats's personal prejudices or his political beliefs, and the fact that he was time and again rejected by this woman. He was time and again turned down by this woman. So this, let us remember that this can be a very subjective opinion about a woman also. He goes on to say, considering that all hatred driven hence, the soul recovers radical innocence. So he believes that if we are able to drive away as in chase off all the hatred that we harbor in ourselves, we can restore the soul to its original state of innocence without our prejudices, without our biases, without our beliefs. We can take the soul back to its original state of innocence, and that innocent state is like a childlike state of self delight, self appeasement, and self affrighting. So, and learns at last that it is self delighting, self appeasing, self affrighting, and that its own sweet will is heaven's will. She can, though every face should scowl, and every windy quarter howl, or every bellows burst, be happy still. So he says, if she decides, she over here is a reference to the poet's daughter. So he says, if my daughter decides that she is going to retain that innocent state, that childlike state of innocence and bliss, then come what may, regardless of whatever difficulties, whatever belief systems she is surrounded by, she can still be happy, because once she learns to preserve the innocence, which is our original state. And may her bridegroom bring her to a house where all's accustomed ceremonious, for arrogance and hatred are the wares peddled in the thoroughfares. So he wants a very traditional husband for his daughter. And he wants a very well settled, rooted house for his daughter, a house which is deeply rooted in traditional and identity, and where everything is very routine and ceremonious, because he believes that in tradition we can forget our hatred, and hatred is actually some commodity which is peddled on the streets, which can be bought and sold on the streets. Life cannot be lived on the basis of hatred. So life has to be rooted in the domestic space, it has to be rooted in family values, it has to be rooted in tradition. And then he goes on to substantiate this point, and he says, how but in custom and in ceremony are innocence and beauty born? Ceremonies a name for the rich horn, and custom for the spreading laurel tree. So here we again see, even in the closing of the poem, because this is the closing of the poem, a reaffirmation in tradition, a reaffirmation in whatever belief system, value system is in existence. So we can clearly see over here that Yeats is not a person who is open to change, who is open to bringing in a new world or usher in a new world. He wants his daughter, and he keeps using the metaphor, the symbolism of the tree again and again and again to reinforce how he wants his daughter to be rooted in family, in tradition, in the domestic space, so that she feels a sense of identity and worth and belonging. And he feels it is only ceremony and customs and tradition that can give her that stability. So he says, it is, let's look at the metaphor here. He says, it's custom and ceremony in which innocence and beauty are born. So it's the fertile, the rich soil of custom and ceremony which enables the birth of innocence and beauty. And then he compares ceremony. He uses the metaphor of the horn of plenty. He says ceremony is a name for the rich horn. So, like the horn of plenty is the symbol of abundance, ceremony is the symbol of abundance of tradition, of values. So, he says ceremony is a name for the rich horn, and custom for the spreading laurel tree. So, through customs, by observing a ritualistic lifestyle, his daughter is going to uh, be like the spreading laurel tree. So, here we have to understand which aspect of the tree does Keat refer to when he wants his daughter to be like the tree. It's obviously the shade giving quality, because a tree is known to be a tree exists for the sake of others, right? It has a very self-effacing kind of existence, because a tree will give you shade, it'll give you fruits, it'll give you wood, and it doesn't want anything in return. So he clearly wants his daughter to have that kind of an identity, which was perhaps okay in Yeats's time, because maybe he was a traditionalist, he was a patriarch, but of course, in wishing this, it is his perception, it is his perspective that all this is going to be. All this is going to guarantee a happy life for his daughter, though as a reader and as a woman reader, I will critique this and I will contest this. And I believe that um, uh, the more rooted a person is, the more you embed her in ceremony and custom, the more difficult it is for the person to express their own individuality. Nonetheless, this is Yeats's point of view, and this was the poem for you, where he keeps using the symbolism of the tree, the symbolism of the horn of plenty, and he keeps criticizing Modgon, the woman he coveted, he longed for, but he could not get. And apparently, they fell out in a very bitter way. She had her own political beliefs, and they never saw eye to eye on all of this. So probably it was a very hurt, resentful, discontented Yeats who was writing this poem, and probably the socio-political and cultural upheavals of the times made him feel very apprehensive for his daughter, because when there's a war going on, you actually don't know the outcome of the war. Everything is in a state of flux, everything is in a state of turbulence. So you're not actually sure about things. All you want is stability. So that also can be one reason to explain Yeats's almost obsessive preoccupation with the idea of stability, with the idea of rootedness, how he longs for normalcy to return, how he longs for the everyday things to return, where he just can't stand the unpredictability anymore. And that is, of course, as we have seen, symbolized by the storm that is raging outside, that can enter his space any moment and disrupt this beautiful family, and uh, disrupt the protective environment that he has created for his newborn daughter, right? So that was the poem for you. And the metaphors and uh, the central metaphors. We've already discussed the importance of myths, how Yeats keeps bringing in mythological characters and mythological symbols and embeds them in his poetry to kind of reinforce the ideas that he wants to convey. And of course, the poem is written in a political, against a political backdrop of the Anglo-Irish War. So, hope you found this session beneficial, and I'll see you again with another unit in the next session. Thank you so much.